Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie, and usually I do book reviews, but today I felt a little controversial. I want to start some drama. I don't actually want to start any drama. If anyone is like mean to me at all, I think I would throw up. Today I wanted to do a little video about some books that I hated, but for like petty reasons. There are a lot of books that I read and I'm like, this is an awful book. But I don't hate it. I'm more indifferent to it. The first two videos on my channel were reviews of these awful books that I rated like 1 star, 1.5 stars, something like that. But I wouldn't say I hated them, just that it was like a bad experience to read. When I think of like hating a book, I think of like the book has to make me angry. And the book has to make me like actively frustrated. It's usually for petty reasons because I'm a petty person. I also don't have any copies of these books because I don't keep books that I don't like. I have very limited shelf space. Oh my god, you can see me plotting out my book. You can see the notes I have. Oops. I have very limited shelf space, so I don't keep any books that I don't like. And a couple of these I actually read in high school, and I just remember hating them. So I don't have anything to show or anything to read. Please don't take anything seriously. I have, my own personal preferences. You have your own personal preferences. Also, this is just meant to be fun, and the reason I don't like these books are for petty reasons, not because they're, well, a little bit because they're badly written, but the first one I'm going to start out with is Of Poseidon by Anna Banks. This book still makes me incredibly angry. I cannot think about this book without thinking about how awful it was for me to read. Just big disclaimer, for me to read for all of these things. Awful for me, not for everyone else. So I never actually read Twilight. I saw the hype of it, didn't want to read it, saw the criticism of it, decided I was just going to stay away from it. I don't have like any nostalgia for Twilight, but I did see all of the reasons why people hated it. Like there would be lists of reasons, Bella's a bland character, Edward is predatory, the racism, things like that. And so when I read Of Poseidon, which I think I read it in my freshman year of high school, that was my version of Twilight. Not loving it, my version of hating Twilight. And I often call it the mermaid Twilight because that's what it is. This is a paranormal romance about mermaids, but they're called sirens, or Serena. I think they're called sirens. So in this story, mermaids can walk on land when they're dry, and then they just turn, it's like H2O, just add water rules, okay? So this man mermaid and his sister are on land, and they run into a girl who's got pale skin and light blonde hair and violet eyes. And the male mermaid just like falls in love with her. He's like, that's a mermaid and I love her. And his sister is like, what do you mean that's a mermaid? That's a human, okay? She doesn't look anything like mermaids. Oh yeah, mermaids have like tan skin, dark black hair, and I think brown eyes, maybe blue eyes, I can't remember. And so I distinctly remember his sister going, she can't be a mermaid unless she like bleached her hair and stays inside all day and wears contacts. It's very important that you know that she does not look like every other mermaid. Anyway, they run into each other, and the male mermaid is like, hi, I like you. He feels this instant connection with her. And she's like, cool, I'm on spring break, so bye. She and her best friend go paddleboarding. They're out in the ocean on spring break, surfing, paddleboarding, something like that, doing a water activity, and a shark attacks them and kills her friend. A shark attacked them and killed her friend. The male mermaid, like when he sees the shark coming, he runs in to help, and so she sees him as a mermaid, and she also tells the shark to let go of her friend, but her friend dies anyway. And that is the first chapter of this book, right? So then we see the female main character, which I forgot their names, by the way. I think it's like Galen and Kelsey or Casey or something like that. I can't remember, and I'm not going to look it up. She has just lost her best friend, and her first perspective chapter, she's talking about how she took a month off of school for like the grief and stuff, and now she's restarting the semester. And she goes to school, and that male mermaid is there, and he has every class. He's following her around. He is not leaving her alone, and she's like, I don't like you. I don't want to be here. This is weird. And he's like, no, but we have this instant connection. We are meant to be together. And she's like, you're creepy, and I know you're a mermaid. Anyway, they start like becoming friends and then eventually dating. And I just want to point out some things. Male mermaid is a prince. He has a sister mermaid who is a princess. He has a best friend mermaid. The princess mermaid is engaged to his best friend mermaid. She doesn't like him. He is in love with her. He's in love with her, and he's like, we're betrothed. We should be together. And she's like, no, gross. I don't want to be together with my brother's best friend. I've known you since you were like a guppy. I don't want to be with you, right? And the female main character overhears this discussion, and she points out that Princess Mermaid shouldn't have to marry best friend mermaid just because they're betrothed. A woman should be able to make that choice. Women shouldn't be betrothed against their will. That's important. That is important. I'm going to bring that up later. Male mermaid and female main character start dating. They're absolutely in love with each other. I guess a little backstory for the world building. Under the sea, there are different kingdoms for the mermaids, and the male mermaid's older brother, who is the heir to the kingdom, was supposed to be engaged to the princess of the other kingdom, and then she ran away or was lost, and they had the pole, which is a soulmates, like a canon in-universe explanation for soulmates. If people have the pole, they have to be together. Like, they have an attraction to each other, and it would make them like not feel great. They'd be depressed if they weren't together or something like that. So I'm sure you can already guess the spoiler that I'm about to say, but spoiler warning. As they're dating, they find out that the female main character is actually half siren. Apparently, if mermaids are out on land too long, or if they have a child with a human, the baby is like super pale with like platinum blonde hair and purple eyes, which doesn't really make sense genetically, but whatever. They find out from like a doctor character that mermaids live a really, really long time, like hundreds of years, and she is not going to be able to live that long because she's half human. And the male mermaid, after hearing the news that she will definitely die before him, throws up like in front of her. And I don't have like a fear of throwing up, but it is one of those things where it's like, did you really have to include that in your book? Did you really have to include that? No, you didn't. You did not have to include that. My entire experience reading this book, I was like, this is weird, and I'm not sure how much I like this, but it's a paranormal romance. It's part of the genre. It's par for the course, whatever. And then the absolute worst thing happens. The male main character and the female main character break up, and she goes on a date with a boy from her class who's had a crush on her. And I distinctly remember they went to like dinner or a movie or something, and they're in the car talking to each other, like, having a great time. She's laughing. She's like, I could maybe see us being together. Like, he's cute, he's nice, he's normal, right? He's not a mermaid, right? And he brings up her ex-boyfriend, the mermaid guy. He doesn't know he's a mermaid, though. Anyway, he brings him up, and she answers whatever he's asking, and then goes, why are you bringing him up? And he's like, because he's standing outside right now. He was standing, staring into the car, into the passenger window, to like menacingly, like staring at her. I was 14. I had never, ever once in my life been on a date at that point, and I still knew that was fucked up. I was like, I do not tolerate that kind of romance of the like overprotective kind, you know, the overprotective, violently overprotective kind. So the male mermaid is like, okay, I'm gonna bring you home, get out of the car. And they have a fight like on the side of the road, and she's like, get away from me. She's throwing her heels at him. She's like, I don't want to be with you. And then she falls to her knees and is like, no, I have to be with him. The pull draws me to him. If I'm not with him, I would die. Do you remember what I told you about the princess mermaid and the friend, the best friend mermaid, and how they were betrothed to each other, and she didn't like that, and so the female main character went on a whole rant about how women should have a choice in their relationships and they shouldn't be betrothed against their will. What happened to that sentiment? What happened to those ideas? Why don't what's going on there? That was my big beef with this book, and I remember like in the lunchroom talking to my friends about it, just like throwing the book down going, I can't do this anymore. But I finished the book. I never actually finished reading the series. I think it's a trilogy, so it's like of Poseidon, of Neptune, and of Triton. I never finished the series. I remember having beef with this book, and to this day, if anyone asks what my least favorite book is, it's of Poseidon. I talked for a really long time about that book because even though I read it like the longest time ago, I still like violently remember how much I hate that book. The next one I don't have to explain the plot because it is like a very popular book right now, but I will just explain the like biggest thing I have against this book and why I don't like it. So it should be a short explanation, but it's Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is a very divisive author. You either absolutely love her or you absolutely hate her. And there's like no in between. The people who love her think she's the absolute pinnacle of writing, and like especially fantasy romance, like they cannot think of anybody better. She is their favorite author. And the people who absolutely hate her think that she is the worst thing to ever happen to the fantasy romance genre. I kind of err toward the latter. My big thing for Sarah J. Maas is that I read Throne of Glass in high school and absolutely hated it and vowed to never read Sarah J. Maas again. And now I cannot escape her, especially since I want to be on BookTube and BookTok. I'm engaging with that content. She is all over the place, and she comes out with a new, longer book every year, and people just eat it up, and it's so annoying for me because I don't personally like her writing, and I know her books are not for me, but then I see everybody recommend her, and I'm like, well, I can't really trust your recommendations if you're saying that she is the best author that you've ever read, because I don't think she's a good author. So like, I believe Throne of Glass was her first work, and her first published work, and that she was 16 when she wrote it. She might have self-published it. I can't remember. I think it's gone through some revisions and republished. I'm not exactly sure, so it might have been improved. But when I read it in 2016, 2017, I was absolutely disgusted by it. I had just learned what a Mary Sue was, and like I've said before, I don't take Mary Sue lightly, okay? I don't say the name in vain, right? Aelin is a Mary Sue. There's no getting around that. She has absolutely no struggles. Everything she does is perfect. The like whole idea is that she's training to be the king's assassin. She's already a perfect assassin, and she wins all the challenges. Like I said, I haven't read this book in a really long time, so I've forgotten a lot of the details. My most petty reason for not liking this book, other than the writing style and not liking the characters or the character arcs, not liking the romance, anything like that. I didn't like anything about this book, but my big thing where I sat down and I said, I cannot read any more of Sarah J. Maas. We don't get very much world building when it comes to belief systems or religion. And then all of a sudden, it's Halloween, and she is super spiritual, believes in the old religion, believes in the old ideas of ghosts and hauntings and whatnot. Whatever. Okay. She's superstitious. She believes in the old thing. I get that. Whatever. And then it's Yulemas. It's Yulemas, and she's going to the Yulemas celebration. The story halts for her to go to the Yulemas celebration. The celebration celebrates the 12 gods, the 12 deities that they have, that they believe in. And her favorite god is the female archery goddess, who is the protector of women. Like I said, I think this was her first work, and if I remember correctly, this is actually one of those Wattpad stories that, like, got published. Not that she filed the series, it's like Wattpad publishes books that get really popular. So I think what this was it was Christmas time, and Wattpad was doing a Yulemas thing, and all of these authors were writing a chapter of Yulemas where they go to a ball, the Yule Ball. That's a thing that happens like on every social media site. People post pictures of their OCs going to the Yule Ball. I think that's what is the explanation for this, but it still upset me because I hated the rest of the book. I was like, I cannot read anything by Sarah J. Maas. And now I can't escape her. It was a one thing when people were like, oh, A Court of Thorns and Roses is my favorite series. Because then I realized, you know, she's grown as an author. She's changed. She's developed. Those are probably good stories, whatever. But now people are saying that Throne of Glass is the best series ever. And that Throne of Glass is like her best work. And I'm like, really? Your bar is that low? Throne of Glass. I'm sorry, that's a little offensive, but like Throne of Glass, it was one thing when it was her newer works, ACOTAR, and the other one, Crescent City, but like, you're gonna say Throne of Glass is your favorite series? Is the best series, the best fantasy? No, I can't abide that. The next book is Forged in Fire and Stars by Andrea Robertson. I actually had, so I used to do my Dollar Tree book reviews on TikTok, but I deleted my old TikTok, but I had an old video of my review of this book. This book has such a cool name, Forged in Fire and Stars. I love it. I think it's adorable. It's a wonderful name, powerful name, right? Forged in Fire and Stars is about a kingdom that has been like overthrown before the events of this book. This kingdom has a job, some sort of job called the Loresmith. This is a blacksmith. They were given this power by the gods, and the Loresmith is, you know, this magical powerful person who protects the king. The kingdom gets attacked, and so the infant children of the king are taken into hiding, and the Loresmith is killed. His pregnant wife was also sent into hiding somewhere else, and nobody knows that this child is the child of the Loresmith, and the Loresmith obviously cannot pass on his teachings to his child, right? The book opens on Ara in her smithery getting attacked by these two twins, and it's very quickly revealed that these are the prince and princess that are in hiding. They have decided to come out of hiding and want to take back the throne and be the rightful heirs. Ara is told that she's the Loresmith, and she gets a cool weapon in order to help her speak to the gods, and then they go on their journey to like take back the throne, right? And that's pretty much the book. They meet this like plucky thief vagabond who's like cute and interesting, and he has all of the answers. Oh my gosh. You can tell that the main character wasn't the author's favorite character to write, and that the love interest was. He was her favorite character. It's very obvious. He is a Mary Sue. Like, oh my god, totally is he a Mary Sue. Ara is like a fish out of water trying to understand her power and like what she's supposed to be doing. He has literally all the answers. They get attacked by some like people, some older people, and he is like, I've met these guys before, we have beef, he's attacking us, and bloom, he's gone. Okay. Okay. He brings them to a city where he knows everyone, and he's like part of the undercity. He's part of the underground mafia thing, but the mafia guy has a heart of gold because he raised him and all that. And then they leave the city and they run into more trouble, and he's got all the answers, blah blah blah. And that's why I say he's a Mary Sue, is because he had the answer to every problem, and it was super boring to read. There were things happening in the book, but nothing actually had a consequence, and nobody actually did anything in the book. There's queer rep in the book in the sense that there's the princess twin, and very late in the book another female character enters, and she like has literally no substance, and she's supposed to be mystical. She's got like a magical power. So you've got the loresmith character, and then the princess character has a sword, so she's cool like that. And then there's the nerdy brother who's sickly, and then there's the mystical like hippie character, and then the charming love interest thief character. They're literally just archetypes and stereotypes and things like that. It's so annoying, right? I say queer rep because they meet, and then Ara is talking about how she sees them by the campfire like holding hands or like smiling at each other, and you're like, oh, so they're in a relationship, but they're not actually in a relationship, you know? They're not actually going to develop a relationship or have them fall in love. It's just they've met, and then a couple nights later they're by the fire and they're laughing and giggling, and Ara's like, ooh, I wonder what's that's about. Ooh, I wonder what that's about. That was a stupid face. Oh my god. I was basically skipping pages, just kind of skimming, going, okay, all right, okay, all right. The characters are all very one note, and Ara's only struggle is that she doesn't know how to be the loresmith, and she doesn't know if she's able to be the loresmith, even though she's been given like power by the gods. She just doesn't know how to unlock that power, and then at the end of the book she unlocks that power. So I don't know what the rest of the fucking series is going to be about, honestly. My biggest beef with this is that Ara is supposed to be a talented blacksmith. She is supposed to be able to make magical weapons. Even before her loresmith identity is revealed and she's given the power to make magical weapons, she is a blacksmith in her own right. She is seen at the beginning in her own forge, and yet Ara never makes a weapon until the last chapter of the book. Now, you might think, okay, she's, you know, a blacksmith. What's the weapon that she uses on her fights? Is it a hammer? Is it a battle axe? Is it maybe some kind of fire weapon because forged in fire and stars? It's a stick. It's a stick. She is given a stick that has this magical abilities. She has to unlock the power of the stick, and that is her weapon. That is the weapon of the loresmith, is that they have a stick. And then in the last chapter, Ara finally unlocks whatever power she has, can step into this like magical forge where whatever she wants, and she makes a bow and arrow. She makes a magical bow and arrow. Not something you forge. I just want you to know, bows and arrows, I think it might have been made of metal. I'm not exactly sure. I read it a while ago. But a bow and arrow is not typically made of metal. And she gives this, it's her first weapon that she makes, magically endowed weapon, and she gives it to her love interest because he uses a bow and arrow. So, yeah, the whole point is that she's a magical blacksmith, and we never see her using her blacksmith abilities. Something I do have to give credit to this author for, she is a horse girl. You can tell she's a horse girl because she has like paragraphs talking about the horses that they ride. So like Ara starts off on one of her own horses, like her family's horse. That's this big old draft horse. And then they like steal, I don't remember, these like, I'm assuming they're supposed to be Arabians because she's like, they're swift and light and small, and they're like good for deserts. So I'm like, this is an Arabian, right? Anyway, so she starts talking about the Arabian horse that she's riding, and how the gait is smoother and easier than her old draft horse. She's like, it's so fast and swift and smooth, and his canter. So, and I'm like, you're a horse girl. Horse girl energy. Nobody else, no other author would write in detail the difference between a draft horse and an Arabian horse, and how their canter is different. That's horse girl energy. And I have to give props, because I'm a horse girl. I'm a hella horse girl. Those notes that you see, it's about a horse book, a horse fantasy book. So, yeah, that's the only thing I can say I liked about this book, is that I could tell she was a horse girl. And if she writes a horse book, I will read it. It might be bad, character-wise, but I will read it because I love horses. Anyway, alrighty, that's it from me. Those are some books that I hated for petty reasons. You might have liked these books. I'm sure they have great qualities. I just have a very pretentious taste in books. And so I'm also very picky about my books. So you might hate the books that I love. I just had a video talking about some books that I absolutely love, and a lot of people don't like the books that I talked about, so there's that. Anyway, if you like that video, please like and subscribe. And if you have books that you hated for petty reasons, like the pettiest reason, like just one line and you close the book, please let me know in the comments below. Other than that, have a good day and bye.